Hey everybody, welcome in. Today's video, I'm going over what I've been having the most fun with is my Solar Hunter build. And I run this with two setups. I have a Shards of Galanor setup and a Celestial Nighthawk setup that I switch between depending on the situation. And so I want to get real in depth on why this works so well and how I have it built. There's some very specific things that I do that have just taken this over the top to be a really great build, to be so much fun. Now, I'm not the originator of either of these builds, really. People have been using Shards of Galanor and Celestial Nighthawk and switching between them for a long time now. This is just now how I have it set up for me and what's been really fun. So here we go. As I said, I have two setups. My first one being Shards of Galanor. I use this build for multiple things, including Legend Onslaught, just did Pantheon, GMs work with this, and you only have to tweak little bits here or there in order to make it work for whatever content you're doing. So for the Shards of Galanor build, that's more the add clear and Onslaught build, less the raid build. You can use it in raids, but it's really better for Onslaught or Nightfalls, things like that. So let's get into how I have this built. First of all, it's built all around Shards of Galanor. Throwing Knife Final Blows decrease the cooldown of your super. Hits and Final Blows with Blade Barrage will return super energy after the super ends. So if you're hitting a bunch of adds or one big guy with a yellow bar or a boss, it'll give you about half your super back. So you do have to be relatively close in order to make sure all your blades hit, because any missed blade is just a little bit less super energy that you get back. So that just means less blade barrages overall in a given wave of Onslaught or Grandmaster Nightfall or whatever you're doing. So usually after I've talked about the exotic, I'll get into the subclass. But first I want to stop in on the weapons because there's actually some really important stuff that I want to talk about. And first of all is this Luna's Howl. I have a lot of stuff built around this Luna's Howl, and especially Heal Clip Incandescent. You don't necessarily need Incandescent, but it really helps. And you don't necessarily need Heal Clip, but I have several things built in the subclass around Heal Clip that really takes this build over the top, making you just get ability after ability after ability. And it's really, really good. You can use Sunshot, you can use Zauli's Bane, you can use Callous Mini Tool, you can use Polaris Lance. Any of these incandescent weapons you can use, but having Heal Clip Incandescent is so good. It's because Ember of Benevolence. This thing is so underrated. Applying Restoration, Cure, or Radiant to allies grants increased grenade, melee, and class ability regeneration for a short duration. And it is strong, guys. So when you kill one little ad and then you reload your weapon, you get Heal Clip, then you get Ember of Benevolence procced. So it gives you all of your stuff back. You get grenade, melee, and class ability regen. And it's really, really strong. If you don't have it, go start farming Onslaught to get this Heal Clip Incandescent. I had to farm so much just to finally get a Heal Clip Incandescent. It took forever. And I understand it's hard to get sometimes, but man, it's worth it. Until you get this, I would probably recommend Sunshot or Zauli's Bane, or if you have an old Callous Mini Tool or Aim at AR2, anything with Incandescent will work. But if you're not running Heal Clip, don't run Ember of Benevolence. Okay, so now that we've talked about that, I know I'm a little all over the place. There's just so many details to cover in this build that I'm trying to not miss anything. So for this setup with Shards of Galanor, I have the Blade Barrage ultimate because that's what works with this exotic. And then you're basically casting this on cooldown, just trying to hit large groups of adds or big adds, make as many orbs for your teammates as possible, and just continue to do damage and spout these out. With this setup, I have Gambler's Dodge, which gets your melee back, and that's in order to just do more and more melees, because every time with Shards of Galanor you get a melee kill, you get super energy. So just in case you don't get a kill with your knife trick, then you can dodge near an enemy, get your knife back, and then try again. And so it just helps you get more blade barrages. You're just trying to spout out these as much as you can. Use whatever jump you want. And then, yeah, knife trick is my favorite because it scorches and it fans out in 3 blades. So you get just more kills with it. More stuff set on fire. It's fun to use. It kills most red bar adds. And then as far as the grenade, you can kind of go either way with this. If you're having trouble, I really highly suggest Healing Grenade. It's great. It keeps you alive, keeps your team alive. You can proc Ember of Benevolence with it, get more abilities back. But really, you don't have to use that with this, especially if you have the Heal Clip Luna's Howl, because you'll already probably have restoration. So I like thermite grenades and I like incendiary grenades. Both of those do a lot of damage and do a lot of scorch. For the aspects, this is where I've really gone back and forth because Gunpowder Gamble is a really strong ability and it can really take care of a lot of stuff, but I just love the quick reload of On Your Mark. Honestly, I've gone back and forth trying it both ways. I suggest you probably try it both ways too. But the other thing that On Your Mark does that Gambler's Dodge doesn't is it gives you 3 fragment slots instead of 2. So if you used Gunpowder Gamble, not Gambler's Dodge, sorry. If you use Gunpowder Gamble, then you only get 4 fragments, and they're pretty important with this build. So I like On Your Mark, getting those super fast handling and reload speed. Especially with heal clip, you want those reloads to be fast if you really need a heal. And then knock them down, your solar superpowers are enhanced. Blade Barrage specifically launches more projectiles. And also a key thing to this is while radiant, final blows with your equipped throwing knife fully refund your melee energy. And that goes hand in hand with Shards of Galanor to just get you more super energy back with every knife trick. Every knife you kill someone with, you'll get your knife back because you also have Ember of Torches, powered melee attacks against combatants make you and nearby allies radiant. So every time you use your knife trick, you immediately get radiant. And every time you're radiant and get final blows with your throwing knife, it refund your melee energy. So basically every time you kill something, you get your knife back. In case you don't kill something, you can Gambler's Dodge to get your knife back and then kill something and get your knife back. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So as far as fragments, I already talked about Benevolence, using either your healing grenade or even getting radiant with knife trick to proc it, or heal clip, which is my favorite way to proc it. And then Ember of Ashes, you apply more scorch stacks, more stuff explodes. Ember of Torches, powered melee attacks against combatants make you and nearby allies radiant. That goes with knock them down and your knife trick. Ember of Eruption, your solar ignitions have increased area of effect. This really helps with your heavy scorching and things exploding more, especially when we're using Dragon's Breath. This is super helpful. And then Ember of Empyrean, solar weapon or ability final blows extend the duration of restoration and radiant effects applied to you. This just helps you stay radiant or have restoration and healing longer. And then especially with this Shards of Galanor build, I like running Dragon's Breath, and especially in Onslaught. Dragon's Breath is so strong, super powerful, just makes everything explodes, does tons of damage to bosses. It's great for everything, for ad waves and for boss damage. And then I typically run a special weapon in my kinetic slot. For quick servitor kills or for taking down tormentors, I have Supremacy, or for blinding you can use Pardon Our Dust, or if you want to get kills on majors really fast and you don't really trust your sniping skills, you can use Scatter Signal or a different fusion rifle. Or there's some setups in Pantheon where I like having a shotgun. Or if I'm going for strictly boss damage, then I'll probably use Izanagi's, but we'll talk about that with the Celestial Nighthawk build. And then for the mods, I got Heavy Ammo Finder, I got Hands-On, gains super energy on melee kills, which just stacks with your Shards of Galanor exotic, and then Harmonic Siphon to make more orbs. Then on the gloves, I got Heavy-Handed, your powered melee final blows create orbs of power, so even more super energy. So every time you're melee killing, you're getting energy and you're making orbs to make more super energy. It's crazy. Then Impact Induction, causing damage with a powered melee attack reduces your grenade cooldown. Now when you're causing damage with that melee, you're also getting your grenade back, which you could either heal you or do more damage with depending on which grenade you have. Then on the chest, I got 3 different resistances. Honestly, depending on the content, you can choose resistances or you can just do harmonic reserves. What I like to do is have another chest piece when I'm grabbing heavy that has 3 solar reserves in it, and switch over to that, grab the heavy, get 12 rockets, then switch back, and you still get all 12 rockets. So that's why I have all resistance, because I don't really need the reserves. But if you don't want to switch, then I would probably do 1 resistance and 2 reserves or something like that. Then on the legs, I have recuperation just to proc some more healing when you pick up an orb. That's kind of like just in case if you're dying. It's nice to run over an orb and get health. Then 2 solar weapon surges to buff up our Luna's Howl. These don't really buff up Dragon's Breath a ton because the solar rocket damage actually doesn't do very much from Dragon's Breath. It's more so the ignitions that do a lot of damage. So if you wanted 1 solar weapon surge, that's totally fine too, because it's really only buffing your Luna's Howl. So if I just wanted to run 1 solar weapon surge, I'd probably throw on Absolution. Reduce all ability cooldowns each time you pick up an orb of power. And then for the cloak, I got 1 bomber, reduce grenade cooldown when using your class ability, and distribution, reduce all ability cooldowns when using your class ability near targets. And then powerful attraction, Automatically collect orbs of power when you activate your class ability. This just kind of helps you in a pinch. If you're dodging to survive, it's nice to be able to pull those in, and it procs recuperation and it procs absolution. It can save your life in a sticky situation. The artifact stays the same on both builds, so I'll talk through that after I talk about the Celestial Nighthawk build and when I use that. So here for the Nighthawk build, I use this in Onslaught when I'm switching to do the boss damage phase. I just like it better in the boss damage. I feel like it does more damage. Plenty of people that just stick with Shards of Galanor and they're able to toss out 1 or 2, 3 supers even, depending on how many ignitions they get and how they have their subclass set up. I don't really like setting up that way with the Shards of Galanor. I don't know why. I just really love Celestial Nighthawk and I've gotten used to it. I do have the same real weapon setup built around Luna's Howl. I just really love this heal clip incandescent and what it does with Ember Benevolence. I still have that set up in this boss damage version of it. What Celestial Nighthawk does is it turns your golden gun into one big golden gun shot. Precision final blows reduce the cooldown of your super, and it modifies golden gun to fire a single high damage shot. Targets defeated by that shot give you super energy and explode. So now your golden gun only fires one super high damage shot, but you have to get precision damage in order for it to do a lot of damage. It's very important to take your time and really get the right shot off. And so what I like using this for is Onslaught boss phases, but also for Pantheon, this is great. For almost every single boss fight in Pantheon, this is so good to have Golden Gun, especially on solar burn weeks. And with the subclass, I have Marksman Golden Gun because you want to be able to do precision damage. Your Golden Gun deals massively increased precision damage, over-penetrates targets, and grips orbs of power on precision hits. And you benefit from being Radiant. So when you cast your Golden Gun, you want to make sure you probably throw your knives, get Radiant if you're not already, then pop your Golden Gun, make sure you hit a precision shot, and then go back to damage. And then for the abilities, so instead of Gambler's Dodge, in this I have Marksman Dodge just to get out more rockets or do more damage. So every time you dodge, it automatically reloads your weapon, which can just help you do a ton more damage. Same knife trick for same reasons, getting those kills, having it fan out to do a Scorch, and making your whole team Radiant. Especially with the Nighthawk build, I like Healing Grenade, just because I run it a little more glass cannon than the Shards of Galanor build. But you could experiment with, again, Thermite or Incendiary or whatever. Most of the solar grenades are great. And then for the aspects, I choose On Your Mark to help you get more reload and faster and just more DPS out, because this is really my boss damage or high damage setup. For the other aspect, you don't really need Knock 'em Down with this setup, because what that does, it enhances your super, and it also, while Radiant Final Blows with your equipped throwing knife fully refund your melee energy, but you don't really need your melee energy as badly with this setup. You do have to be careful, because with the other setup, you're so used to just running and gunning with those melees that you're just dishing them out. With this setup, you have to be more careful and be like, okay, I need to go Radiant right before damage, throw it, here we go. So not running Knock 'em Down, instead running Gunpowder Gamble, just to do extra damage, and because Knock 'em Down doesn't really help us as much. As far as the fragments, I have them all the same as the other build, except for I switch out Ember of Eruption, which your solar ignitions have increased area of effect. I switch that out with Ember of Singeing, which your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets. And this is so you can just get more dodges to get more reloads, and it helps you do damage that way, especially if you're using Dragon's Breath. You can Dragon's Breath, dodge, reload, and just scorch and ignite everything over and over and over, and you get your reload back so super fast, especially if you're proccing Ember of Benevolence at the same time. It comes back super fast. So yeah, still have Ember of Benevolence, Solace, Ashes, and Torches. Just switching out Eruption for Singeing. For then the weapons on this build, for Onslaught, I keep them the same. Do Dragon's Breath, Luna's Howl, and Supremacy, or Pardon Our Dust, or Scatter Signal. Or you can use a Riptide too, if you want to take care of champions with that. But I'm going to also talk about what I use for Pantheon, because this is the setup I typically run around in Pantheon. And really what I like to do is I like to run my Apex with Reconstruction Bait and Switch, and then Izanagi's. And this is just so much damage with this, especially coupled with Celestial Nighthawk. You're doing so much damage. There are other cases to use different weapons, and you can switch out, use Supremacy and run Galahorn if your team needs it. There's Xenophage, there's Lament. For what's that boss's name? Caretaker. I think Parasite's really great. You shoot your Parasite, Golden Gun, pow, as fast as you possibly can, and you can one-phase them. For Oryx, Whisper of the Worm's great. But this is my typical high damage setup right here. And for the mods, they change a little bit with this build. So I have Harmonic Siphon, I have Heavy Ammo Finder, and I have Heavy Ammo Scout. So I removed Hands On because we're just not getting as many melee kills. And then on the gloves, I have Impact Induction, causing damage with a powered melee. Attack reduces your grenade cooldown. You don't have as many powered melees, but it still helps you get your grenade back. And heavy-handed stayed the same. Your powered melee ability, final blows, create orbs of power. Again, not as powerful with this build, but still nice to make an orb. You could switch this out just because you're not doing it as much, so you're not getting as much value out of this. So it'd be fine to switch it out for something else. And then harmonic loader to increase reload speeds. And really, this is increasing the reload of Luna's Howl, and that's it. This is more for the ads and that kind of gameplay, not the specific boss DPS. You could, if you wanted to, really emphasize just boss damage, and then you could switch this into a kinetic loader to help Izanagi's load faster or something like that. And then for the chest, I got a couple of resistances and solar reserves just to make sure I have enough rockets for the full damage phases that we're doing. If we're talking Onslaught, I'm set up like this, and I switch over to my other chest piece, rally the flag, and then switch back. In Onslaught, for the legs, I have 1 recuperation for that health. And then these kind of change depending on what boss fight I'm doing. If I'm using Izanagi's, I'm probably going to go with a kinetic weapon surge, because kinetic weapon surge actually helps your golden gun and it helps your Izanagi's. Or if I was in Onslaught, it would help my supremacy or whatever sniper or special weapon I'm using. And then that solar weapon, especially with Dragon's Breath, only really helps those little rockets. But if I'm in Pantheon, it's kind of the same thing. You want to buff your Apex or your solar rocket, but you also want to buff your Izanagi's. So you can kind of change these up depending on what you're doing, depending on which weapon you want to emphasize. And then for the cloak, I still have 1 bomber, and I got powerful traction still, but this time I added in time dilation just to make sure those armor charges stick around a little longer in those long damage phases, just in case your team's not creating orbs for some weird reason or something like that. For the stats on the Shards of Galanor build, I go 100 resilience, then about 80 discipline, and about 60 recovery. I like to have higher, like medium high recovery on the Shards of Galanor build, because this is more my run around, clear ads. There might be a bit more downtime. Just to play it a little more safe, I like to have that recovery. For the Celestial Nighthawk build, the recovery doesn't matter as much, so I like to go with resilience and with discipline. The other stats are great. You can try to get those up as high as you can, but really it's resilience and discipline and then recovery that matter. For the artifact, these are actually pretty important for the build. You want to have unstoppable hand cannon, because that also overcharges your hand cannon, which does 25% more damage for Luna's Howl. Kindling trigger, radiant causes solar weapons to apply scorch to unscorched combatants. From Whence You Came, deal more damage to Taken and Scorn. Flint Striker, it's a big deal. Rapid solar weapon precision hits and rapid solar weapon final blows grant radiant, which can help you take out barrier champions. And then Torch, while radiant, deal increased weapon damage to combatants affected by strand and stasis debuffs. I think this is 15% more damage here with Torch, so it does kind of make a case for using Riptide with Chill Clip, so you can get that 15% more damage on the big guys. Then Heart of the Flame, casting your solar super grants nearby allies radiant and increases the damage of your super for each nearby ally. So when you're stacked, it helps to just do a little bit more damage with Heart of Flame. And then Wished into Being, while your super is nearly fully charged, ability final blows spawn orbs of power. This is actually stronger than I think a lot of people give it credit for. Then Revitalizing Blast, causing damage with a solar ability, weakens champions and bosses for a short duration. This includes your throwing knife. Rays of Precision, while radiant solar precision final blows cause combatants to ignite. Argent Ordnance, to just make your rocket launchers do a little bit more damage. So then for my boss damage in Pantheon, just kind of wanted to talk through my setup real quick. What I like to do is proc Radiant first, then pop my super, which I don't have right now, but shoot my golden gun, and then switch over to Izanagi's. Fire off the 1 shot, immediately hold reload. As soon as you see that 1 pop up there, you can switch over to your rocket, fire 2 shots, dodge to reload, pop back over to Izanagi's, hold reload, switch over. You should have 1 shot there. You want to make sure to remember to pop bait and switch when you need it. Just kind of like this. You don't necessarily need to pop bait and switch as much as I'm doing right there. It just kind of depends on... Yeah, you get the point. As soon as you see that 1 pop up in the Izanagi's, so it's 0, 0, 0, 1, you can switch, if that makes sense. Hold reload, switch. Back. Hold reload, switch. Back. Hold reload, switch. Make sure you're proccing bait and switch with your hand cannon every once in a while. Hope that makes sense. And make sure you have Radiant. For Onslaught, the damage rotation's a bit different because I'm using Dragon's Breath. So basically, I'll make sure I'm Radiant. And also, you'll be getting your dodge back faster. I know this has been one of my longer videos, but it's basically 2 builds in one with swapping back and forth from Blade Barrage or Celestial Nighthawk, and it really is so much fun. And if you've made it this far through the video, thank you so much for sticking with me. Thanks for watching. I appreciate your support. It really helps me out when you like the videos, but it really helps out the most when you subscribe. So please subscribe and know that I'm really working hard to research the new stuff that's coming, all the prismatic stuff, all the exotic class items. Catch you on the new stuff. Peace.